So to carry us forward, I have the honor to welcome the Sky Perryman to the stage. Sky was named one of the Times 100 2025 100 most influential people in the world, and one of the nonprofit Times Power and Influence Top 50. Sky is the president and CEO of Democracy Forward, a nonpartisan national legal organization that promotes democracy and progress through litigation, regulatory engagement, policy education, and research. Sky is known for developing innovative legal strategies, building unique communities and coalitions, and values-based leadership. She has served on the board of directors of Interfaith Alliance for several years and is presently the executive committee and chair of the Public Policy Committee. Under Sky's leadership, Democracy Forward has played a leading role in protecting the American people from harmful and unlawful federal executive action, including securing a nationwide order stopping the freeze on federal funding and essential services, opposing executive actions that undermine diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility, protecting religious freedom at houses of worship, opposing attempts to dismantle the Department of Education, protecting funding for libraries and museums, and blocking attempts to withhold federal funds from public schools. Please welcome Sky Perryman.
It's so good to be here and to see you all tonight. Today is International Democracy Day. Did you know that? It's International Democracy Day. It's the 18th year of International Democracy Day, which is a designation by the UN. And the reason that's significant, and I want to bring it into this space, is that for about 2 decades now, in the United States, but also across the globe, as we look across the globe, more countries have been moving towards autocracy than moving towards democracy. So I'm going to say that again. For the last 2 decades, and we're celebrating the 18th year of International Democracy Day, more countries in this world have been moving towards autocracy as opposed to democracy. So the post-World War II, post-Cold War vision that we were somehow approaching the end of history and that countries were going to start moving to free and fair representation and to greater democracy is no longer a reality. And we have been amidst a paradigm shift across this world for some time. In 2021, the United States was added to a list of global backsliding democracies. So I will say that again. In 2021, not 2025, not 6 months ago, in 2021, the United States was added to a list of global backsliding democracies. And it was not the president's attempt to overturn the results of a free and fair election that landed us on that list. It is what got international researchers to start paying attention to what was happening in America. But when they looked at what was happening here, what they found was rising state and local extremism, misinformation and disinformation. They found courts that instead of protecting people's right to vote and people's individual rights were more often than not at the US Supreme Court reversing that. That didn't start in 2021 either. You remember the Shelby versus Holder decision some years prior, dismantling core sections of the Voting Rights Act. And then you have what happened in the aftermath of January 6th, which is that we had an attempt to overthrow a free and fair election, and the United States Congress did nothing to prevent that from happening again. Those factors landed us on that list. And we remained on that list and remain on that list every year since. Those of you that are from Texas or from other states here who have dealt with extremism at the state level, you don't have to be told all of this because you lived it. You're living it. I grew up in Texas and I'm a proud product of K through 12 public schools too. And we have lived that here, but now it is affecting the rest of the country, and if you look at it globally, you find that we are just part of a statistic now, a statistic that has got to be reversed. So the question last November was not whether we were going to be able to propel ourselves to some place we've never been before. It was whether our backsliding democracy was going to slow down its backslide and maybe be able to turn around, or whether our backsliding democracy was going to move into a rapidly accelerating autocracy. We know where we are, and we know what we're seeing. And so whatever you believe, whether you consider yourself liberal or conservative or moderate or independent, it doesn't matter now. This is for all the marbles, and this is a global democracy fight. But the title of my talk, which is going to be very brief, is about how fighting for democracy is at your own front door. So what does this have to do with all of this global conversation? The acceleration into autocracy follows a similar playbook, whether you were here or whether you were across the world, whether you were living in 2025 or whether you were living in the 1930s. It's a similar playbook. Try to divide people, point out and try to demonize people, get people to deny their common humanity, convince people that somehow we don't all want our kids to go to a good school that's safe. Everybody wants that. But let's try to pit people against each other and find issues to give and build distrust among people, to burn and ban books, to attack universities, to attack lawyers and judges, and to engage in misinformation, disinformation. That's been the playbook for some time, and it's a common playbook. And how you confront that playbook is not with the perfect legal case. There wasn't a single legal case that was going to take Germany out of where it was in the 30s. They had good lawyers too, that cared a lot, right? There wasn't a single politician that was going to be elected. To get out of where we are and to get out of where we have been is going to take the people. And so the fight for democracy is a local fight. It is a local fight with profound global consequences. Every time someone comes into your school and tries to pit you against someone, or tries to remove a book, or tries to suggest that maybe if we could just all agree that we're all going to think the same way, everything would be okay. And you're being a little extreme to suggest that maybe we should be exposed. Every time that happens, that is an attack not only on you and your community and our values as Americans who value democracy, it is an attack on a global democratic system. And we see it everywhere. And so what we have seen at Democracy Forward throughout our work, which is in large part in state and local communities, now everybody's reading about it on the national scale, is that the true champions of this moment are people who are here, in this room, in local communities. I'm here today with my best friend, who's a mom of 4 Texas public school kids, and has been incredible in advocating in her community before the PTA, and if the PTA won't do it, go somewhere else, here in Dallas, in order to speak out and make sure every kid is served. The Cooperative Baptist Fellowship is here. They have gone to court with us to keep ICE from entering their houses of worship, Baptist churches, and the Interfaith Alliance helped facilitate a lot of the awareness that is being raised about what ICE is doing in churches. They look like me and you. They look like our communities. They're not the face of a big, powerful senator or of a Supreme Court justice. They are people doing this work. And we also know, we just heard from Randy, the American Federation of Teachers has been on the front lines with us. You'll see something will get filed soon. You'll see another one. But we have blocked attempts because educators have shown up and parents have shown up in court every single day, even in this environment, to keep public school funding and to oppose attempts to try to assimilate every kid, every family, every teacher into one thing that the president finds acceptable. And so that's what's happening. In the last about 230 days of this administration, more than 400 lawsuits have been filed. In the cases where we've been able to win for public schools, we've been winning before judges that President Trump himself appointed. The case that Randy and I and our teams won to block what's called the Dear Colleague letter, which was a ransom letter to educational systems across the country, saying if you don't agree with the president's view on civil rights, you don't get your federal funds. We've won and blocked that, and we won before a judge that President Trump himself appointed. This is beyond politics. But when we see those news stories, what's fueling it is people in courthouses, in communities, in schoolhouses, and in houses of worship. And so it is such an honor to get to be here today to kick off what is going to be doing the real work of coming together and learning from each other. What can we learn from experts? What can we learn from community members? What can we learn from people who have different lived experiences and backgrounds? And how can all of us participate in our democracy? So thank you so much to Paul and the Interfaith Alliance and Guthrie and the whole team for having us here. There were lots of references to the Constitution. So this is just sort of like a week. Today's International Democracy Day, and September 17th, which is later this week, is Constitution Day. Is the day that the Constitution was signed 238 years ago. That Constitution, even though we're a relatively young country, is the longest and oldest charter of a government that is still in place. So when you look at these global statistics, and then you look what's happening in your community, you feel like it's all on your shoulders. It kind of is. Because what happens here matters. You heard the rabbi say, this was the first country where Jewish people were considered anything other than a second-class citizen. All of that's up for grabs right now because of attacks on our Constitution. So thank you for having me, and thank you to the Interfaith Alliance for bringing all of us together. We're going to get really local. We're going to get really tactical about schools, about what we can do, about public education, about religious freedom. But just remember, all of that is part of not just a local fight. It is a local fight with massive global consequences. So thank you for being part of the fight, and thank you for having me here.